Welcome to the Senior Moment podcast, where we dive into topics that deal with seniors and senior living. If you are a senior, work with a senior, or have a senior in your life, this is the podcast for you. You never know what topics will be discussed in each and every episode. Hosted by Cindy Cannon and Brady Tabbs. This is the Senior Moment podcast. We're excited to have Andrea Sargent with us today. She's a CPR instructor and also a respiratory therapist. Andrea, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is my first podcast. I'm a registered respiratory therapist. I work out of Alton Memorial I'm with the BJC system. I've been with them for over 16 years. I also teach CPR. I've started about 12 years ago taking on teaching courses. I started with work and I went through work to do that. And I've been teaching all over the community. I come out to Villa Rose here every 2 years. That's when your CPR certification needs to be redone. I go to many other places in the community, Edwardsville, Glen Carbon, surrounding areas. I do also go into the St. Louis area.
Perfect.
So yeah.
I was going to say when we started talking about all things heart for February, which I know tomorrow we start March 1. But when we started talking about heart things, I told Brady, I said, I think we should ask our CPR instructor.
right.
Like she was really engaging in the class. We can be a hard class to teach.
I don't think so.
And so,
No.
yes, we had you come out. It was a great class. And so I definitely thought about you and some of your expertise.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Can you give us a brief description of your background and how you decided to become a CPR instructor
Of course.
and a respiratory
Of
therapist?
course. I'll start with respiratory.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. So probably about 20 years ago is when I went back to school, and I was a single mom at the time. Went back to school. First went back for medical assisting, finished that degree, went on to respiratory, finished that degree, worked as a student therapist for about 3 years at St. Anthony's here in Alton, out in Alton, I should say. Finished, took my boards, passed them, then started with Alton Memorial, and that's where I've been with that. So about, 4 years into working with them, my boss asked me to go become a CPR instructor so I could train the cardiac cath lab, a bunch of departments at the hospital.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily just respiratory. It's going to be sleep lab. It's going to be whomever needed it.
Yeah.
So I said, of course, yeah. So I went and did that, just thinking it was just going to be another part of the job, not thinking that it was really going to turn into anything.
Right.
Which, again, it was just a part of the job. So was doing the CPR instruction and then slowly started going to the community. But where it really became rewarding is when you would teach a class, and I've had many calls afterwards about people taking the class and having to use that skill that they never thought they would have to use that skill and saving the lives. I've had about 5 people call me, and one happened to be our neighbor. So, and the daughter had just come to the class to learn because she wanted to start babysitting, and her mom had a sudden cardiac arrest in her kitchen. And the daughter was the only one home and had to do CPR on her mom for 18 minutes.
Wow.
Yes. And that was just one example. I've had many companies that take the course that aren't required to have the course.
Right.
As you know, some facilities are required to have courses for their that keep up with their CEs and their licensure and all that good stuff. But a lot of companies, they aren't required to have it.
Yes.
So those are the real cool success stories, of course, the people that don't do this on a daily basis, take the course and have success. And then to hear those stories. So that's what's gratifying. So in the beginning, it kind of just started as, oh, this is just another part of my job. This is what I do on the side, and then it turned into something different, which is super cool.
So now when you go out to those places, you think, yes, this could make a difference in someone's life, right?
It's a very meaningful job.
Yes, 100%. Some days, you're tired and you don't feel like getting up and going, or something else sounds more appealing.
Sure.
But then you think, this could save a life, and
Yeah.
it's different than just going into work at a grocery store or something
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and it's for someone who's done a lot of CPR classes, it's great to have an engaging instructor. So
Thank you.
I think we've all probably sat in those classes where it was
Oh,
super boring and you're not sure anybody is paying any attention.
correct.
And you had us up and moving. And of course, again, we're a funny little group. And so you got right in there with us and was laughing and just kind of made it where everybody was paying attention, everybody was doing what they
Right.
needed to do, right? And they're all learning.
And not only that, it's hands-on.
Right.
That's the great part about having the flexibility of you can do a lot of book work, but as an instructor, I like to do almost 100% hands-on.
Yep. Do it.
Not sitting behind a book reading and just sitting
Right.
there watching a DVD. We're actually 100% with our hands on the mannequins.
And a lot of the CPRs went online.
Oh, I know. Yes.
I mean, because I know for the home care side, we see a lot of people come in where they took like an online course. And I'm like, man, I don't know how valuable those really are because you just don't get the experience of doing and going through it.
100%. And do you know, I actually talked to some people that take CPR online and then they come and take the class in person and they say night and day. They say, I would have no idea how hard I had to compress because I use the Preston mannequins, if you remember.
Right. With you get a little green light. Or if
Yes,
you're pressing too hard, you get the red light. You're like,
Yes.
oh, don't kill the kid.
Right? That's too much.
I know, exactly.
Right. They have what we call real-time feedback in them.
Right.
So that's indicative of your rate and depth. So when you don't have that tool, that very useful tool, you're unable to. So taking CPR online, no comparison.
Right. You don't get the same experience.
No comparison, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I completely
Yeah.
agree.
I was going to just chime in here.
Yeah.
What makes those stories, you said people call you back and tell you what
Right.
they did, saved a life or,
Right.
that came in handy. That's the one amazing thing about it is if they're like me, they're hoping they never, ever,
100%.
ever encounter anything like that. So the fact that you teach them to do it and then they do it
And then they did it.
and then they did it
And they did
at a
it.
crucial time to
Yeah.
save somebody is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 of those stories, well, 4 including the mom and daughter situation. 3 of the other ones were companies, like I said, don't need it, didn't need it, just maybe heard from somebody that, oh, there's a CPR lady who comes around and teaches. And
Right.
just booked it. And those were 3 individuals that called and said, thank goodness, like stars had aligned. Maybe that's why we called you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great that those companies, we're independent living. We're not
Right.
required as well to do it,
Exactly.
right? But we
Exactly.
do because
It's
first of all, I want all the staff to feel comfortable in an emergency situation,
100%.
not panicking and just going through the steps, right? You've done this
Yes.
before. Don't panic. Let's
Done
do
it
what we
before,
do.
you can
That's
do
right.
it again.
That's right. And so, but I also feel that it gives confidence
100%.
to
I
the
agree.
staff that they can act. And, we remind them about the Good Samaritan Act in Illinois. It's never going to come back. Help somebody.
Yeah, help
Right.
somebody.
And I know sometimes people are fearful of that, but it's like,
Absolutely.
it's
breaking ribs or
Right.
causing damage,
yeah,
injury's better than death.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I do think the class just gives them the confidence that I can do this. If I need to do
agree.
it, I can do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
So tell us some things that you would recommend to seniors. Obviously, we're talking about CPR and heart health, right? So things that how we can maybe keep the heart healthy so that we don't go into cardiac arrest.
Well, right. So not necessarily just cardiac arrest, but, just long-term living.
Correct.
Yeah. One thing, of course, we know is really huge is the smoking situation. Stop smoking, reduce smoking. That's one very big one, of course, and I know we all know that, to stay away from that.
We had a lunch and learn yesterday, and we had a cardiologist come in, Dr. Tavari. He's new here in Bethalto, but he came in and did a lunch and learn, spoke to about 40 people, and it was really great. And he said that very same thing. And it was really, every time he would tell us something, it would be like he'd come right back to stop smoking or reduce your smoking. In January, we had someone come in and talk about exercise.
Oh, right.
And
Right. That's actually the
is that
next
on your list?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the
Okay.
very
Perfect.
next. Yes.
Yeah.
All very, very helpful.
So, what type of exercise are you recommending?
Weight training.
Weight training.
I mean, a little aerobics is great. Maybe 150 minutes a week would be fantastic
Mm-hmm.
for the elderly population. However, some resistance training is also really good just to keep your muscle mass.
So you don't lose that muscle mass.
Muscle mass. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Again, quit smoking. We know that.
Exactly.
Following a heart healthy diet is really important too, like your lean proteins, your fruits, your vegetables. I know you have some people that might like Pepsi.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yep. Trying to get rid of some
Again,
of that sugary stuff.
moderation.
Yes.
Just moderation.
Mhm.
So, yep. Cutting out like a lot of salt, processed foods, really good. Keep your blood pressure, at a
And the processed foods are something we see a lot of seniors move in here, and that's what they've been eating at home. Are the
right.
frozen meals that they throw in the
Yes,
microwave,
'cause
right?
it's easy.
Super easy. There's one person, I throw it in,
They
right?
don't have to make a meal.
And they don't realize the amount of sodium that is just plugged into those things. I was going to say, yeah, I think he talked a little bit about going out to a restaurant and having one meal, and you probably get more sodium in the one meal than you should
Oh,
all
really?
day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just talked about just restaurant cooking. You'd be really surprised at the amount of. So, I mean, he talked about using like canned vegetables and things like that. So, we try to be very mindful here of the sodium content
Good
in
thinking.
the stuff that so all of our vegetables are no salt added. We don't add any salt. We look for so we make homemade soups. We use a low sodium low sodium base for our soups because we have a lot of people who have to watch their salt
Yes.
intake.
Yes. Blood pressure.
Yes, right. It's important that we try to
Absolutely.
keep
Well, he said
those
there's
things.
already sodium in it. So these people that add salt, and we know who they are, they don't need it. There's enough salt on there.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I'm a little guilty.
I am a little guilty of salt too. I like a little salt.
I like to add a little salt on my salt.
Yeah.
So I'm a little guilty.
On my popcorn at the movies, I will throw some.
I was going to say my blood pressure's okay though, so I should be okay.
You can reward yourself.
You can have a little salt.
A little moderation, right?
Right. Moderation.
That's right.
Another thing is maintaining a healthy weight, of course. Just watching, and that goes along with your eating and your exercising and all that stuff. But again, keeping your appointments with your doctor is very, very important so he can monitor everything.
And I think as people age, they may not be as active, and so they may eat the same amount, and then maybe they gain a little weight, not
Right.
really realizing, right, as your activity, your metabolism slows down, your activity slows down a little bit, and yet you still eat about the same, and those pounds kind of sneak up on people.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely maintaining
And I would suggest limiting alcohol as
Okay.
well. From kind of doing some research, limiting alcohol or cutting out alcohol as you age. Not only that, but sometimes alcohol can have interactions with.
We're getting
some
ready to do
medication.
mudslides when we're done with
I
this.
heard. I thought I might stick around for a little bit.
National Kahlua Day.
I heard coming in.
I was gonna say I just took the blenders to the kitchen. I was like, when I'm done with the podcast, I'll go in and help make mudslides. And one of the ladies was like, yeah, what exactly is in a mudslide? I was like, Kahlua.
This lady was asking on the way in if it had dirt in it.
Oh,
really cute.
That's not a reward. That's on the calendar
Right.
this time.
Well, I just was going to say in moderation.
I was going
although
to say.
we did have happy hour Wednesday. It's a fun place to be.
Well, hey, that's my next one, to reduce stress.
There you go. See, we are reducing stress.
Again, the good with the bad.
Yeah.
Good with the bad. So manage your stress. Of course, getting enough sleep is very important. Sleep should definitely never be, overrated.
Right.
Overrated. Sleep is so important.
Yeah, we really need 7 hours a night,
I think they're saying 8.
8. Ooh,
and I don't think anybody gets anywhere near that.
No.
I mean,
feel like
not only
I do try.
Do you try?
I do try.
I try.
I used to stay up and go to bed after the Tonight Show, and then I get up early, and it was only like 6 hours or 5 or 6, and now I try to go to bed early. I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm to bed early for sure. After 10:30, quarter to 11. I mean, I like to read a little bit, so typically about 10:30 I lay down and maybe read 20 minutes and go doze off. But I need 7 hours, or I'm crappy the next day. But I sleep really well. So I sleep really well. I do the little fun aura ring that tells you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the stats on this are quite
Yes.
amazing.
I was looking that up for a ring.
It's amazing what it tells you. And it is
About
really, we're trying to
your-
convince Brady to get one. I think he needs to get one and get his sleep. And
Mhm.
I was going to say, so one of the things that it tells you is your cardiac health.
Okay.
So I definitely work out. And so it'll tell you like, oh, you're doing great. You've worked out, so many hours, get your heart rate up a little bit. But then it'll compare it to your actual age.
Oh,
So like
fantastic.
my heart is better than my age. Like I think right now 2 years better than my age. So it tells you that. It's really interesting the things that so even if like you may not feel like your body's off, it senses something
That's fantastic.
going on in you.
That's very interesting because even when you have 0 factors, you
Mhm.
can still have issues. You can still have issues.
Right. So my daughter has one. We actually had a resident, first one in the building. We had a resident get
Wow.
this. But my daughter was telling me that like she woke up and her ring said, "Hey, your body's off today." And she caught the flu and she started running a fever in the evening. So it detected it about 10 to 12 hours before
That's
Before it happened.
amazing.
That's
before it
That is
happened.
amazing. Yeah, I think you just sold me.
Yeah,
I-
you
I'm
need to
serious.
I was gonna say I've been a big Fitbit fan and I had the like wearable Samsung watch and whatever. Because I'm a Android user, not an Apple user, but I was more impressed with the Fitbit than I was like the Android Health, but this tops it. So
And do you know I didn't plan on talking about this, but I think you've sold me on that ring. Back probably 5 months ago, out of the blue, I had a heart attack. Just completely out of the blue.
I was gonna
Was
say,
I
what
would have
was
never
that?
guessed
Can
that.
we ask what was that?
Oh,
She
I just
I
heard
think she dinged.
Oh, okay.
Was that
I'm
me
sorry.
dinging?
I
It's
don't
okay.
think so. I thought it was
It was
something here
Oh,
outside.
maybe it
Okay.
was.
All right, never mind.
That's
Keep
okay.
going.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
did ding it though. Yes, out of the blue, I had a mild non-STEMI, so a non-ST elevation, myocardial infarction. So, and I have 0 risk factors for that. So, no
Ah.
smoking, no obesity,
Right.
sleep okay. I mean, I have very mild hypertension, but no real risk factors that would put me in that category. So, that's just things where you never know.
So it was really interesting yesterday. He talked a lot about females that we are more at risk for
Yes.
heart issues,
Yes.
that we are so resilient
Yeah.
that we tend to not show signs.
Yes.
So he gave a great example.
It was good.
It was so good. He gave a great example.
And so
He's
true.
like, so I am sick and I am laying in bed and I am sick. And he's like, my wife is sick and my wife is up
Yes.
and she is cooking for everybody
Yes.
and she is making sure that everyone is good because
Yes.
they just keep going. Women just keep going.
We do.
And so he said when a woman comes in and we have to try to read between the lines
Right.
because she's so resilient that a lot of times she's having heart issues and no one knows.
And no, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yes. So that just, reiterates all of this stuff I'm talking about. But not only that, it kind of gives you a clue of sometimes you can do all of this stuff and it just might happen.
Right. So, yeah,
But
absolutely.
definitely keeping up with everything is very important.
And it helps, right? It just helps to try to stay as healthy as possible. There's some things you can control and some things you can't, right?
Absolutely.
So we talk about the things we can control.
Can control 100%. And
Yep.
these are the things we can control.
Absolutely.
Of
With your
course.
episode, what did you do? Just make an appointment or
I drove myself to the ER.
to the ER?
So you knew something was wrong.
I did. I was actually at work the day before, and I don't know what it was. Something just felt different. And what was very bizarre about it is I remember where I was at walking when just something felt different. And if you asked me to explain what it was that felt different, I couldn't tell you. Something felt different. Then from there on out at the work day, I was just something. I felt weird. And then I went home and I told my husband that I was having some mild chest pain and I took some aspirin just to see if
Good idea.
let's see
Mhm.
if this helps it. Because if it is,
Fixes
maybe
it.
this is
Mhm.
something. And he said, "Go lay down, maybe that's," and I said, "Okay," because it was nothing severe. So I did. I laid down for the night, and I remember waking up a couple times throughout the night thinking that pain I had went away. So it was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. And then Monday morning rolled around, next morning, and the alarm went off, and my chest just got really, really tight, like it was the night before, but much, much worse. And I said, "All right, I have to go to the ER." And yep.
And
And
that's where
they confirmed it. Yeah.
Looking at you, I would have never guessed that in a million years.
I know.
right. Well,
Yeah.
she said she doesn't have any of
No.
those risk
No
factors,
family,
right?
then
No,
no
no
family
family,
issues.
no genetic. Nope. And I went to Anderson Hospital, and they did a cardiac cath through my wrist, which normally it's through the groin. Just so
Right.
happened the day I went there, the cardiologist on staff did radial caths, which is
Really?
great because it's a lot less traumatic than going through the groin.
Right. And then
Yeah.
you don't have the risk of something busting open, right?
Well,
Because
there is still a little bit of
there
a
is a
risk,
little
but
bit. Okay.
it was they took great care of me. They
Oh,
took great care of me.
wonderful.
So back home the
Wow.
next day, good so far.
Okay.
Good so far.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's I was going to say my mom, she had some stents put in, and she probably had issues in her late 50s. So I remember, growing up and graduating and her complaining of some issues and my dad saying, "It's all in your head, Marge. It's all in your head, Marge." I remember that. And so she didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then time went on, and I guess probably in her late 60s, working out in the garden and chest pain, shortness of breath. And she went in and they did cardiac cath on her. And the back valve in her heart had completely closed.
Oh,
And so
wow.
4 years, and the front valves enlarged.
Yeah, because they were working so hard.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing how the body tries to, like, repair
Then say,
itself? It's
yeah.
like, wow.
It's ama
And so one of
amazing.
those valves had some plaque and was basically, you know, had become like 85% blocked.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and so they did a couple of stints, and she was great, but we were like, "Mom, when you were having all those issues years ago and you didn't go do something, and
Right.
Dad, you told her it was in her head." Um, and she really was having an issue, right? But she was so afraid of the cardiac cath. She just
Yeah.
was, I mean, years ago when it was still new, she was so afraid of it.
It's scary.
It is, but then once she had it, she was like, "Oh, that was really nothing,"
Right.
I mean, it's almost
Yeah.
more of a fear of doing it than having it
100.
And
done.
it's important to do it too to see what there is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I am still always just blown away by the technology. So, she had these 2 stents put in, and then I mean, I remember even going with her to the heart doctor and doing the checkups. I mean, she went all the time, but as time went on, I wanna say about 4 years after that, same thing, we're out in the garden, chest pains. And so she instantly knows, "Oh, this feels very similar," right? So we end up going, I think, to the ER, and we got to see the cardiac cath. Where those 2 stents had went together, there was a very small little gap, and it almost looked like you had blown a balloon and then wrapped a finger around it. Right between those, it had closed off,
Wow.
and they had to go in and put a stent to bridge it.
Yeah.
And they were just like, "This area is really susceptible to closing."
Yeah.
And, she did the stent, and she's been gone almost 6 years, but I remember when she was on hospice, them saying, "Man, she has a strong heart." I was like, "Man, everybody told us our heart was a ticking time bomb." And you just never know, right? Like, it hung on there at the end, like, anyway. But it was just amazing, the technology. I remember us getting to see that video, and it was
That's
like,
so cool.
wow,
That
it's
is so cool.
amazing, the technology today.
Yes. And do you know when they went and did my cath, they said my heart was perfect. Perfect. Stress. That's what they said about managing
Ah,
stress. That's why that's so important. So,
wow.
and just like you were referring to, the women, were doing and doing and doing. And it was a Monday morning, and, you know, doing and doing.
We do tend to not take care of ourselves sometimes,
It's
do
true
we?
sometimes.
Reduce
Mhm.
stress.
I
Reduce
was going to
stress.
say my stress relief is Brady, you've been here a while now. Do you know what my stress relief is every 4 weeks on a Monday afternoon?
I believe that's a massage.
It is.
Oh, well, that's a wonderful
I
stress
do.
relief.
I was going to say I have a massage therapist, and every 4 weeks I typically get anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half massage.
Wow.
So I started doing that a long time ago because just like you, I work a lot
Mhm.
and I become very stressed, and it is a stress reliever for me. And it also is healing to my body.
Yes.
So because I carry stress, I tend to tense up. And so it is a big stress relief. So I mean, there's not very many people, but literally beginning of the year, every 4 weeks, just mark it off because
Okay.
I'm going,
You're out of here.
I'm out of here. I do. And I slip out of this place around 4 o'clock.
That's perfect.
I'm like, you guys know where I'm going.
Don't call.
That's right. Oh, it goes off. I'm not taking it.
Right.
For the next hour and a half. Whatever happens, somebody can deal with it till I'm back online.
Right. And then just getting back to the heart health, like you know, had spoke about earlier about the smoking cessation, the quit smoking, the reduce smoking, the finding alternatives for smoking is so important.
And we were also earlier I asked the question yesterday about vaping because this generation, the old seniors aren't vaping, right? But our younger generation is. And
Absolutely.
so, I was told, well, it's not as bad as smoking as long as it's not nicotine. I think most of the time it is nicotine in those vapes. But
Yes.
I'm not sure, as we were talking earlier, I'm not sure we know the effects.
I agree. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to find in the future.
Yeah, because as we were saying, it used to be cool to smoke, right?
Right.
Back in the 50s and the
Right.
60s, everybody smoked and it was the thing to do. And we
Didn't
didn't.
realize adverse reactions in the future were going to happen.
Right. And then
Right.
as technology increases and we learn more and more about the effects of things. So it is going to be interesting if we could, jump forward.
Yeah. Read the future. That
We
would
could
be,
read the future
we
to
might
know.
not be vaping at all. Nobody.
Right.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But
Right. And it seems like, as we were saying, like younger and younger. I mean, you were talking middle school
Middle
and
school, yeah.
you're seeing it some in middle school. It's kind of,
And the fact they hide it. I mean, I don't think they do it at home necessarily, but they're doing it when they get to school. I mean, it's really, and I'm sure it can be every bit as addictive as smoking. So
Mhm.
when you're in middle school, yeah, that could follow you for a while and
Sure.
present a problem.
just like you start smoking cigarettes at a young age, if somebody started young, they would probably continue
Right.
into their adult life.
Mhm.
Scary.
Right, it is very scary for sure, absolutely. Sometimes we just don't understand what damage we're doing, right, to our body. I think, though, if people recognize it and can stop, and what's in the past is the past, right? Just try to move forward and do as much as you can
Sure.
to get yourself healthy, right?
Yes.
Because I will say, I mean, like, we probably all think when we're younger, we're invincible, right?
Yeah. You
Like,
can do anything.
do anything you wanna do, it doesn't matter, And
You're here
then
forever.
as you start to get a little older, Brady, we're not too far off in age, buddy. Now you start to see, oh, maybe this is reflected of I think for me in working with seniors, I see, like,
Mhm.
I mean, just right down the way here, there is a lady that has lived here for 12 years probably, and she's 97.
Wow.
And she looks fabulous. She
That's
looks
amazing.
fabulous. She's still walking. She doesn't have a walker. And then I may see a 67-year-old
Right.
move in with major health issues. And I go, look at the two
And what did they do? What
lifestyles.
lifestyles did they lead?
Yeah, they looked completely
They
different.
took two different roads.
Yes.
They did. And you don't realize until you get to see those kind of side by side, like, whoa, look at the difference that it has made, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely
It is.
amazing to see just eating right and
Yeah.
exercising and, trying your best to put the good things into your body. It makes a difference. Really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. I agree.
Mhm.
I agree with that.
In the whole overall picture from your skin to everything working inside.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think too, sometimes me and my son do this with food. I tell him, be careful, don't eat that or whatever. But then it's easy. It's like, do what I say, not as I do. I think smoking's probably the same. There's probably people that smoke that know it's not good, but don't want to see their kids do it. But they've
Mhm.
been doing it for years and years.
Sure.
And so you just hope they listen to you, but you're not setting the best example either. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough for sure, I mean, it is tough for sure. My brother-in-law, he's always smoked, but, his none of his kids did, and he was kind of like that, like, "I got started when I was young," right? But even talked about the dangers yesterday, talked about the dangers of secondhand smoke and
Right.
even someone in your family, it's like
Yes.
you don't realize, like, you're putting everyone in your household
Yes.
at risk. And I guess I really hadn't thought about that. Even if you go outside and smoke, you
Just
know?
standing near.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a little eye-opening. I hadn't really thought about some
And
of
when
those
we were kids,
things.
our parents would smoke with the windows up. We would just be driving down the street with the windows up.
So
I remember that.
I was gonna say we did have someone who used to be a teacher who would go out, and help to get kids out of the car, and she made the same comment about she just made the comment about sometimes they open the car door and they've been vaping, and
Yeah.
the smoke just kind of
Yeah.
lingers out of the car, or people who are also smoking marijuana.
Yes.
Just it's like those poor kids.
I know.
They're inhaling all of that,
Yeah.
yeah, you can just follow somebody down the road and smell that.
You
I mean,
can.
my goodness, it's really
Well,
bad in certain spots.
yeah, I mean, I know it's obviously legal in Illinois, but I've never in my entire life went to Walmart and smelled more marijuana. I mean, it's almost like
That's true.
every aisle you go down, I'm like, "Oh, wow. That's a really
Did a
popular thing."
did a skunk fit in
I
here?
know,
That's the
exactly.
joke with my son, the skunk. Dad, there's a skunk in here. There's a skunk around here. I said, there must be.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
you're talking about smoking too, I lost my thought.
Sorry.
I'm
No,
sorry.
talking about smoking.
No, we're
It was
talking
the
about
skunk
smoking.
talk.
Marijuana.
Oh,
Oh,
we used to have, when I was younger, a kid, we used to have a neighbor who smoked and she took us to school and her kids, we all piled in the car and went. And that smell as a kid, you don't, now I don't think I'd get in a vehicle like that
Right.
as an adult. But as a kid, we did. But now I probably wouldn't
Well, you
unless
didn't
I
even
was
really think about it, I
hitchhiking,
think, as a
needed a
kid.
ride or something.
I mean, when I was in
Yeah, you didn't
school,
think about it.
Southwestern had a smoke pit.
So
They
Jerseyville.
closed it my freshman year because I remember being in high school, the smoking pit was gonna close down, and it was like a revolt
Oh, yeah.
for the
Oh, I'm
high
sure.
Oh,
school.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, I mean, yeah. Did they have one in Jerseyville too?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, and boy, we've come a long way, haven't we?
Right.
Smoking pit.
Yeah.
Well, Brady, we're gonna tell our age, maybe just a little. That would have been like in '86, they would have closed it at Southwestern, probably '86,
The one in
'87.
Jerseyville was still going in the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
Really?
I'm almost sure. May have been late
Okay.
80s, may have been late 80s, but
Okay.
I graduated in 93 and I remember it. But maybe you're right. Maybe it did close there in the
So I
first couple of
graduated
years.
90. Now I graduated at 17 because my mom sent me to school at 4. Like, get her out of here. Because I know there's only a couple years of age difference in us, but yeah, they closed it. I'm pretty sure freshman year, '86.
86. That was Southwestern?
Yeah. Mhm.
It
We
might
have
have
come a
been
long
maybe my
ways.
sophomore year they did then. But I do remember it as a freshman. It's like, hey, there's this one.
Well, I mean, restaurants, I remember going in and they'd ask you if you wanted a smoking
Smoking
section
or
and
non.
non-smoking.
Sure.
And now you obviously can't even
No.
smoke,
No.
right? Bars can't smoke,
No. I
So
don't
much has changed.
casinos. I don't
Yeah.
believe you can in
No, I think
not positive.
I think it's any public
Mm-hmm.
place in Illinois, you cannot smoke 15 feet from
That's
an
great.
entrance.
That's good.
It is. It's good. It really, and like you said, it's tough to be around it. If you're not around it, and then people don't realize how it does have a smell to it.
Oh, it does.
It does. It does.
They don't smell it, but we smell it.
That's
I guess.
exactly right. That's right. So if people are interested in taking a CPR
Yeah.
class or having what are some resources? How are you?
Sure.
Right.
So I go to locations often.
Okay.
If anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm pretty flexible with my scheduling. As long as I'm not doing another class or working or interfering with a personal life, they can call me. I have a cell phone that they can reach me directly, and that's just the easiest way to get a hold of me. They can call or text 618-604-7936. They can also email me at cprbyandrea, ANDREA, and that's at gmail.com.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
And when we put this out, we will put that information. And that way, if people hear the class and they want to connect with you
Sure.
and they want to schedule you, I know when we're done, we're going to look at some or have you look at some September dates to
Yeah.
come in because it's time for us. So Brady, you'll get the full Villa Rose staff. I really always love, I think typically that morning at some point, I require all employees to watch The Office as
Oh, that's great.
Dwight.
First aid fail.
That's right. The first aid fail. That's
the best.
exactly right. It is great. So I say, okay, so let's not do this today. Mannequins are expensive. So
Right.
if people have not watched the CPR
Oh,
film, go do it.
it's
'Cause great.
hysterical.
It is hilarious. Absolutely. I'm a big Office fan anyway. So,
And you know what? I'm not the biggest fan, but I still think that's probably one of the funniest things I've seen.
oh,
The funniest.
It is. I mean, the show is so stupid that it's funny. But I was going to say there are some days that I am like, we sometimes could be an episode of The Office. Oh, look, Brett is going to pull it up. Oh no, he's pulling something else up apparently, so that we can look. But it is. Oh, he's going to pull up a little comic, the CPR comic for us. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. Now I'm pausing, but for people who have not went and watched the little, go to YouTube,
I was
type
probably
in,
going to YouTube it after
type
this
in
anyway. So
The Office, the
hilarious.
CPR fail.
I think it's called first aid fail.
That's it. You're
First
right.
aid
First aid
there's
fail.
probably been
It
more than
is-
a couple of those
Oh, I'm
over
sure.
the years.
I was going to say it is absolutely hilarious. And oh yeah, so Brett likes cyanide and happiness. So he's going to pull it up. Are we going to watch it after this? Is that what we're going to do? Okay. So for those of you who are listening to this, you should go look at YouTube and type in CPR, the cyanide and happiness short, and watch that as well. So any closing notes that you'd like to share with us or anything you'd like as we wrap this up?
I think just going back over, even when you feel like you don't have risk factors, just keeping up with your appointments is also really important. Getting to your doctor, managing your blood pressure, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
Stop smoking.
Stop smoking.
Or cut back.
Or
Or cut back.
And as we get older too, because I'm a very healthy person. And so I had to kind of have the same kind of internal conversation with myself, like, okay, you need to go to your doctor every year. You need to get your blood
Your
work. You
annual,
need to
yes.
just do an annual, just get it done, get your mammogram, just do all those things because you never know. Right.
You never
And
know.
so, yeah. So, I mean, when I I was like, okay, they just confirm everything's great, everything's great.
And
so
that's fine.
yeah, and if that's what you walk away knowing, then at least you've got some of that, reassurance that you're doing what you need to do and
You want a good
everything.
report when you
Yeah.
do
You
go.
want a good
Absolutely.
report. Sure.
Absolutely. Andrea, thanks so much for coming today.
thank
We
you for
appreciate
having
the
me.
conversation.
Thank you.
It's been a
Yes,
great
thank you.
conversation. And so people, I encourage you to connect with her and get her out to teach a CPR class.
Perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for listening to the Senior Moment Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to like, follow, and share wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We hope you'll join us next time. Take care, everybody.